Hello and welcome to another edition of the Franchise Tag Overtime. I'm Gareth Smith, and today we're joined by Las Vegas. It does feel odd to this day still saying Vegas. Las Vegas Raiders right tackle Jermaine Eluemunor. How you doing?
Good. Just got done with practice. Just ready to just chill for a little bit.
No, completely grateful for your time today because, as you mentioned, you have just come off the practice field. So, how's that been going this morning?
It's been going really good. It's my first year in the league coming into training camp as a starter. So, it's a little bit different from what I've been used to in the past, but it's cool because now I get to just work on little things that I'm gonna really use in the season, like hand placement, different techniques, different sets, and just different ways to beat defenders. So it's real cool just getting coming to training camp now and just being able to work on my craft.
And it's your third year in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
How have you found living in such an iconic city as Vegas?
I actually love it, because I live in Henderson, and that's about 15 minutes away from the Strip. And so, it's real peaceful out there. But then if you want to go out to nice fancy dinners, you can drive down to the Strip, which is only 15 minutes away. But there's really good local hole-in-the-wall places around me where really you don't have to drive down to the Strip to get good food. And obviously you can tell I'm a food guy because I'm a lineman, obviously. So, yeah, it's just I love it out there. I love it out here. It's real peaceful. The weather during the summer, it gets pretty hot and you kind of
Oh,
burn
I
out
can
there.
imagine.
But it's not that bad at all.
Now I can imagine like it's not when you think of nice chilly winters and nice chilly places. When you think of Las Vegas and the Strip and all
Yeah,
that, it's well
I
known
will
to
say
Nevada for its heat.
I will say the fall is really really nice.
Is it?
It's about like 75 to 80 degrees with a nice breeze, and then you get that breeze from the mountains coming in. It's real chill. So yeah, the
Nice.
fall in here and even the spring is beautiful.
Nice. And we've also obviously mentioned it's your first year officially as a starter this year. The O-line in Vegas has been fairly settled, with it being again another year as a unit. How do you feel that it's helped you lot being so consistent with the players you've got there in that O-line going into this season?
I think the big thing that is cool about returning with five starters is continuity. Because as an offensive line, you have to be able to know what the guy next to you is going to do and how he's going to react to how you take a set or how you run block, and just being on the same page as the guy next to you is huge. And you can't really do that when you have guys just revolving around you instead of a revolving door, and you're playing next to multiple people. So to have Alex come back and him be my right guard again is huge for me because it gives me the confidence knowing that the guy next to me knows exactly how I like to play and how I like to, pass pro and how I like to run block. And he's on the same page as me. And when we're on the same page together, we can really remove anyone. So it's really cool having him back. And then also for the left side as well, Cohen and Dylan returning and them building on the continuity that they built last season. And then also having Dre coming back too, who's the centerpiece of the offensive line because he's the center. And everyone knows that the center is kind of the guy that holds the other four guys together. So to have everyone coming back, I think is not only huge for the team, but huge for our room too, because we know who the guys are and what we have to do and how to build on what we accomplished last year.
And I'm one of these people who hates all these preseason rankings and all that kind of stuff. I've seen obviously the Raiders across a few sites have got you rated as 19th in the league this year, which I think is a bit disrespectful. Bearing in mind there's a lot of teams who are having brand new pieces, brand new players coming in. From day one, you guys know each other. Do you take any notice to stuff like that, or do you just go out there and play and ignore what you're hearing?
No, I mean, the preseason is for hyping up the fans for the upcoming season. And obviously, people who don't really know offensive line that we're going to put our rankings and, give guys numbers and, make people think that they know what they're talking about when they really don't. I think you can't really buy into rankings too much during the offseason because then, some guys' heads will blow up, other guys will feel disrespected. But no one's played a game yet. Everyone's 0-0. No one's even touched the stadium field. So we're all on what's this day 3 of practice, day 4 of training camp technically, and we're all trying to build on our game so we can get ready for game 1 in September. So no one truly, I don't think all offensive lines right now are the same. Obviously, some guys are returning all pros and pro bowlers and stuff like that. But right now, there's no pros from the 2023 season. Everyone's the same person. And until you step on that field and you start to make a name for yourself, you start to make a name for the offensive line, there shouldn't be any rankings. This is my opinion, but people are going to assume that some units are better than the others just because of what they did last year. But look, we don't care about that. We're just here to work.
Good to hear, because as I say, I said myself, I'm not a fan of these. Like, it's anything pre-season. I'm one of these who's always said it's kind of pointless till you see how the teams play and stuff like that. But one thing that is interesting this year in Vegas is you are protecting a different guy this year. There's a new guy stood back there in Jimmy G this year. How much are you looking forward to working with him and building that relationship up?
Oh, I love Jimmy. He's a great guy. He's a great leader. And just to be playing out there with him, we've seen him in the Super Bowl. We've seen him just taking the 49ers to multiple conference championships. And to have that guy and to have that leader and a person with that pedigree on your team who's just going to give everything he has every single snap, it just makes you want to play even harder and just makes you want to make sure he doesn't get hit at all. So I love that he's here. I love that he's part of the team. And I'm really excited to play with him and so are the other 10 guys or 9 guys.
And it's going to be interesting to see how your offense works this year, because you've got some really dynamic pieces there, and add Jimmy G to that. It'd be interesting to see how that offense runs this year. But you're also part of a very, very competitive division. That AFC West has got the Super Bowl champions in it, which isn't ideal. You've got the Chargers, who are fresh from a playoff berth, and you've obviously got a new head coach over there in the Broncos. So what can the Raiders do this year to upset that apple cart of those teams this year, do you think?
Just do our job. Just do what we need to do.
Simple as that?
Pretty simple. We go out there and do our job every single week. I think we'll be fine.
So one thing I actually do want to bring up is it's always interesting because your second interview in a row I've had with a British player. We had FA on last. And it's always interesting to hear how someone born, living it from London, how you got into American football, or football as people over there affectionately, So how did you end up getting into the sport that has become your career?
So originally, how I got into it is I was looking for an Arsenal game on TV, and I was flipping through the channel, and out of nowhere, I saw the Giants and the Dolphins playing in Wembley Stadium, and I was just caught my attention right away, and I wanted to get into it. So really, it was just TV. I was watching TV, and first thing I saw was an American football game, and from that point on, I just wanted to play.
And one thing I did find quite interesting, because you were a rugby guy originally as well, a bit like myself. I've played rugby, and I'll be honest, I have tried O-line, and it is a very much underappreciated position I have found. From trying to play it, the sheer trying to literally play it, it's really complicated, a lot more complicated than anyone I think ever gives it credit for. Why do you think that it is such an underappreciated position? Because it's without doubt one of the most important units in any team is that offensive line.
Mm-hmm. I think that more recognition is coming to the offensive line. I just think that, because our position isn't really, our positions don't really get the spotlight. It's more so the receivers and the quarterbacks and the running backs, so they're touching the ball. So whoever's touching the ball is going to obviously get the spotlight and the TV time. But I think nowadays people are realizing that, in order for a team to function, you have to have a good offensive line. So more and more attention has come to the offensive line. But, as an offensive lineman, you kind of don't really care about the attention. You just want to do your job and help everyone else look good.
And as I say, you're definitely right. There is more credit coming to it. And obviously more and more offensive linemen are getting paid respectively decent salaries. It's going to be one thing that is obviously quite interesting. As I mentioned, I spoke to FA recently. We've also had Jack Crawford, obviously, over in the NFL as well. More and more players from Britain are slowly but surely starting to make their way over. How does it feel knowing you're an inspiration to players, young kids over here who have that dream of playing in the NFL?
I think that more opportunities are being presented to the kids in England. I think that with the NFL Academy over there, they're getting more looks into playing football and having more schools from America come over to, scout them and introduce them to football. I think that me and FA going back over there and hosting camps and trying to give kids will help it grow even more. And I think it's our responsibility to keep growing the game over there because, I just had a camp over there. And a lot of the kids told me they had never played football before because the opportunity wasn't presented to them. So for me, I want to be able to give them that opportunity and keep helping grow the game over there as much as I can. And the way I do that is just by producing on the football field over here in America, and that's how this is my plan, because I want to give these kids the best opportunity possible to succeed in this game. And it's such a great game, and there's so much to do in it, and it's changed my life, and I know that it can change other kids' lives. So I just we need to give them the opportunity over there.
And it's even right down to like getting scholarships, because there's been a lot of fairly recently more and more players from the NFL Academy getting scholarships into the colleges in America. For example, you had Emmanuel Okoye, who's recently announced to Tennessee. So more and more players from the NFL Academy getting scholarships, which when you think about the university education that also goes with that, if you do go on to make it as a professional athlete, fantastic. If not, there's the university education that you also get. It has to be a huge win for some of these kids who might not necessarily get to go to university otherwise. So it's really such an impassionate thing, an important thing, I think, to show these kids that the opportunity is there for them to not only go on to potentially be someone like yourself or FA or Jack, but there's the opportunity to go on to get such a really good education in some of these elite universities that are available in the States as well. So it's really good to see. And you mentioned the camp that you had. How did you find that kids camp? How did you find to go into that event?
So I've been wanting to do a camp for the last 6 years. I just didn't really have the connections and networks I had to have in England until I came to the Raiders. And the player development stuff here really helped me put it together and gave me the connection over in England, because I've known the NFL UK guys for a while. They just didn't think I was as serious as I was to host a camp over there. And it took my guys here who work for the Raiders organization putting that together and helping me get out there to England to host a camp back in my hometown. I hosted it in Finsbury Park, and I only
nice.
2 minutes away from there in Camden. And so that was really dope. And it was also just really cool to see the amount of kids that came out. I had never touched a football before, had never been on a football field, but the game just was so intriguing to them that they wanted to come out and just see what it was about, and to just be able to let loose and just be kids and run around and throw a football and chase it down and, take people's flags and do drills. It just, the smiles they had, I'm never, ever going to forget. And that's why I want to do it next year. I want to do it for multiple years, probably till the day I die, and keep bringing smiles to their faces and just giving them more and more opportunities. Like next year, my plan is to do it in 2 different places, and obviously London, because I was born there, but also at Loughborough University, so I can reach out to the kids in Leeds and Leicester and surrounding cities and give them an opportunity as well, because there's not a lot of opportunities over there to play the game. Obviously there's the academy, but not everyone can really afford that and afford traveling to tryouts and stuff like that. So I think that by me having camps, it will give kids more opportunities to show what they have and to get into the game. And hopefully by partnering with the NFL Academy and Loughborough University, I can give them an opportunity to further their career and give them opportunity maybe to even come over to America and play the game also.
Which is so good, because as you mentioned, we don't really have that much of an opportunity as kids over here to play the game that much. There are a few, I know there has been some events up and down the country, like flag football, that they're really trying to get, obviously, to take off over here. We're seeing some good traction in that, particularly with it potentially being an Olympic sport in a few years. So, because we had an event up in Liverpool as well with the Bears. They held an event up in Liverpool, and obviously FA had his camp. We at Crystal Palace. We had 2 guys go over to that one as well, which was they enjoyed that day. They even got involved in doing some drills of trying to I'm just saying pass interference drills, because they weren't covering anything.
Well, you guys can come out to my camp next year then, because that would be really cool as well.
Yeah, we'd love to come out. As I say, we do all kinds of events. We always love covering events because we love seeing what goes on in them, just because the kids just really get involved and you see it, as you say, how happy they are at these events. But it's credit to yourself for contributing back, because not every player does this kind of thing. So obviously we thank you for everything you do for the kids in the UK, for when you are hosting these events.
No, of course. I love doing it. So I want to do it even more on an even bigger scale and just keep bringing more opportunity over there for those kids.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate the time because I don't want to keep you too much long because I do appreciate you've got other stuff to do. But thank you very much for your time today. Been brilliant to speak to you. Also, thank everyone listening, and we're back soon with another special guest.